Hey, buddy.
Thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
I'm so glad to be here.
This is a very special episode. We have been super fortunate to get to do this show and this podcast I've been doing podcasts since high school, but AIM and specifically since the summer of 2020, almost 150 episodes in. But to have you on is just like a complete full circle moment for me, as you have been one of the, if not the most influential person in my life. And so just to have a conversation with you today is so special, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I think you stretch it a little bit, but that's okay.
I want to, I think it'd only do this thing justice to start it off with allowing you the opportunity to kind of share where you've maybe gotten some of your inspiration from and throughout your life. I know you've been that person for me, but I would love to turn it over to you to kind of share who inspired you and who got you on your journey.
Well, Douglas, I watched my father back in the day, and he was a very good person. He was my best friend. He was always there for me, and I don't know. I just knew that I loved the car business. I like cars, and Dad took the Oldsmobile franchise in 1954. And then in 1964, he took on Cadillac. And then 1968, I bought into the business with him. And in 73, I took on Honda, which turned out to be a real good thing. But anyway, Dad was one of 12 children, and he had to drop out of school, I think, when he was probably in the second or third grade, just to help the family. He was the oldest one in the family. Wow. And anyway, he told me a story one day. He said, he was going to go look at a car, and said the guy was dressed real nice, and he said, I really like that. I don't think I like this working in the factory too much. And so anyway, long story short, he applied for a sales job with the Chevrolet people here at that time, and the second month he was top salesman, and wow. Never sold a car, sold anything, but he had the personality for it. And I think people trusted him. But anyway, he went on to, and like I said, in 1954, he told the people he worked for that I'm going to start a business, and I'd love for you to be part of it. I have some people that want to, but I want you if you want to do it. So they did. They went in with him, and then a little later, he bought out one of the partners, and then in '68, I bought, through my dad's help, I bought the other one out, and then eventually it was just us, and we built a new building, and I'll never forget, I was standing up on the hill, and we were building this building, and people couldn't get gas. I mean, it was awful. It was pretty scary. And I told my dad, I said, I don't think this is a good time for us to be doing all this. He said, well, son, let me tell you. He said, I've been through a whole lot of rough times, and said, we'll go right through this. Don't worry. We're going to be okay. So fortunately we were. We didn't, And so, like I said, we just got back into it, and so I didn't have a lot of choice. My dad, back in, I can't remember the years, but he had a major stroke, and we almost lost him, and the doctor basically told me, he said, he's not going to be able to take a lot of pressure. And I figured, he said, he doesn't need any worries and blah, 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 and this and that. And I said, I was the only one he really trusted, and the only one that he had. So it was a long story short, I had to go a blow. I had to either grow up and take the business over, or the business was going down. And so fortunately, evidently I did a couple of things right. Things worked out good for me. I got everybody together and said, listen, I'm here for you. I don't have any choice. I want to do it. But if you have a problem, you're going to have to bring it to me. Do not bother my father. He's got a health condition. And so if I don't have the answer, I promise you, I will find the answer. So that turned out really well, but I always had my dad to fall back on. What would you do? He was like my crutch, and he was always for me, always there for me. And so that's kind of the way I got into it, took it over, and we just went on from there. In a little town, our numbers wasn't big, but anyway, then it just got to the point later in the years, and I just got where I didn't like it. I didn't like what was happening, and all the advertising you had to do and all the hoops you were jumping through. And so I decided to get out. And I did. And that was 2001.
Wow.
2001, I think I got out. And but it was a very good experience. I loved what I was doing. I loved the customers, and I liked most of the employees. And but we had a good go at it. So that was kind of the way it all went down. And then, like I said, I lost my dad, and then of course I was all in it myself. And but it worked out. It worked out, and I think between the good man upstairs and all my friends and family, it was great.
Wow. It's an amazing story, and it's so cool to hear the way that you talk about him and the impact that he's had on your life. And I think one of the coolest things that we can do is honor the people that have gone before us, the people that have made sacrifices to put us in the position that we're in. And so I'm curious, and I'd love to hear more about maybe some of the lessons that you learned from him, some of the things that you guys learned together through working together, through him being your father / business partner / mentor. Because I know there's some powerful lessons that you've taught me that have probably stemmed from some of the things you may have learned from him.
Well, one thing, here's a guy that really didn't have a great education. He loved people. And one thing he always told me, he said, son, there's one thing nobody can ever take away from you, and that's your word. What you tell somebody, how they trust you.
Wow.
Nobody can take it away. And that's what so many people lose. And, from there he was, he would come in, and he'd limping around from the health issues, and I kept his office forever. And he said, now if you need my office, I said, as long as I'm here, your office will be here as long as you want it. But he would come in, and I'd had a bad day, and I would ask him, Dad, what would you do? And, we would talk. And so he just helped me in so many ways, but people loved him, and they trusted him. And he left a very good situation for me in the business. And but he just all said, when you lose your word, you've lost it all. And I truly believe that. But we had a great relationship. Like I said, he was my best friend, and we just we did a lot together. And as the years went on, I tried to take him around, do stuff. He was big into horses, and I'd take him out to Tennessee, and just took care of him. He took care of me long enough. And I had a relationship with my dad that was a wonderful relationship. And I've listened to a lot of young guys, or not young guys, but people, talk about their relationship with their family, or particularly with their father. And they didn't have it. I was so blessed to have a dad that really was there for me, cared for me. And, you know, no, he didn't have a wonderful education, but he was a smart person. And boy, you could not trick him on numbers. Numbers, boom, boom, boom. He could walk in and tell me, hey, look, what are you doing? Oh, looking at the financial statement. I said, how do you think we did? He could almost tell me what we did and never look at it. Because probably couldn't read the financial statement anyway. But anyway, that's the kind of, he just had a knack with people. And somebody would come in and like we were going to hire somebody. I'd say, look, I want you to meet my dad. Particularly, I'd know if he was going to be there.
For sure.
And I'd come in, introduce him, you know, and then when they'd leave, you know, he'd sum them up just like that. Wow. He'd tell me, hey, that's an honest person. Or, I don't know, that might be a little shady. He said some things, you know. He was so good at qualifying people, and I guess that's what he did all his life. And but, yeah, you know, I was just blessed and so fortunate to have somebody to guide me and somebody I could go to. He was my crutch. And so, yeah, you know, things went pretty good. I mean, I guess for a country boy and out of Martinsville, Virginia, I made it okay. It wasn't fantastic, but I loved what I was doing until I got to the point where I didn't like it. And I talked to a real close friend of mine, and he's passed away now. Most all my friends have passed away now. But, and he told me, he said, he was an attorney, and we used him quite a bit. And I told him, I said, you know, it's just not the same. I don't have my dad. I don't have the spunk or the whatever it takes to go out every day, to get up and go, I'm going to work, something's different going to be today. And he said, looked at me just as serious, he said, Doug, that's a no-brainer. Sell it. Get out of it. Wow. If you don't really like it. And I said, you know, I don't hate it, but I don't like it like I did. Sure. And I don't look forward to coming in anymore. And so that's kind of where it went down. So
yeah,
I sold it.
There you go. That's amazing. Oh, and you put the proper time in, and you worked to be in a position to be able to do that. Obviously, that didn't happen overnight. You wouldn't be in that position if you hadn't put that time in.
Well, I guess that's right too. But I was very blessed to find somebody that really wanted the business and just they took me out. The dirt, the building, the franchises, everything.
For sure.
And I had several people, you know, that wanted to say, well, I'd like to do it, but I want you to stay there and run it. Well, that's what I was trying to get away from.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
That didn't work. And then, like I said, Mr. Wright came by and put a number on it. And we haggled a little bit, and it was gone.
I love it, man. I think it's so cool when people find their calling, their passion, their line of work, and they're able to do it in a way where they're still able to execute on the business or whatever needs to be done, but at the same time, they're able to impact people's lives. They're able to build real relationships. And when I look at you, I see a lot of very powerful qualities that I'm attracted to and I admire. But one of the things about you specifically that I'd love to even dive deeper into is your ability to have powerful, very healthy, and very positive relationships with people. And I think we could talk about this on a personal level, but even in a business situation, you don't build a successful business without taking care of people. And that's the customer, that's the employees, that's your management team. And you talk a little bit about your dad saying, your word is what's powerful, but I'd love for you to expand on just how you've been able to be so successful at really building strong relationships in your life.
Well, I think, again, going back to my father, I just listened to him and watched him deal with people and his concern. And I mean, he listened. When you were talking to my dad, he was listening. And I guess I just watched so many people say so many nice things about him. And I'm thinking, boy, would I like to have that reputation. Now, whether or not I ever deserved it or got it, I don't know. But I just wanted to be like him and have the respect that he had in the community. And when I know when I would take him to places and people knew him, particularly to these horse shows and stuff, he'd walk in, and I mean, it was just a great feeling. And I was hoping that, hey, one day maybe that'll happen to me. But he had a lot of respect for people, and he was very respected. And I have so much respect for people, because without your customers and without your friends and without the help of the Lord,
That's right.
You can't be successful. I don't care what business you're in. But I was just, like I said, I just been very, very blessed with just my surroundings, my family, and you and all my grandchildren, my daughters, and it's been a real blessing, and I've enjoyed it, and I just hope that I can continue to enjoy my life and to hopefully make a difference in somebody else's life.
Wow, that's so good, man. That's so good. I think it's cool to see even my perspective of this, of like, you talk about your dad, you're going places with him and you're seeing the way people interacting with him and how they're complimentary of him. But the same thing is when I go anywhere with you and I see people come up in the community and hey, Doug, and they just come up and they're so excited to see you and they're just excited to talk to you. And you can tell that doesn't happen overnight. Like, there's a body of work, there's a reputation that you've built, and the way you've served and the way that you've given back and the way that you've just been positive and encouraged people. I think that's a true testament of being someone who is looked at in that way. And so it's cool to see the full circle moment of how you admired your dad for that. And now I can now look at you and see the same thing.
Well, that's mighty kind, and I really appreciate it. I'll never forget a sermon I listened to, and I had a lot of respect for this minister. And he had gone with me several times to see my father when he was in the hospital at Duke, and we were coming back, and I don't know how we got into this conversation, but we were just talking about faith and hard times and losing my best friend, not that that's different. And he looked at me and he said, Doug, I'm going to tell you, in life, we are going to have peaks and we are going to have valleys.
It's good.
And he said, let's hope and pray that we have more peaks than we have valleys.
That's
but
right.
we're going to have both of them.
It's inevitable.
And we just got to deal with it. And so, at times I would get down on myself. I said, I don't know what to do. I'm not doing the right thing. But something would happen eventually or right away or just change everything. And all of a sudden I was back into it. And but I just never forget that, him saying that. And then the other saying my dad always told me, he said, son, and this is everybody talks about now, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Wow.
That came from him a long time ago to me. And I walked in one day and he said, what have you been doing? And I told him. He said, sound like you've been really busy. I said, you're not kidding, but we did this and did that, and I didn't know what to do. He said, well, I can tell you've been hard at it. And just remember, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I will never forget that. And of course, that's a saying it's people talk about now, but But it's true.
It's
true. And but again, my real blessing is my children, my grandchildren, and all my family and my friends.
Wow.
Without them, you have nothing.
That's right. It's important to understand that for sure. You did mention though, the harder you work, the luckier you get. You've always told me that, and I've always known that came from your dad, and it is true. And I think, where I am in my faith, I think the word luck is interesting. Like, I believe that the harder we work, the more opportunities come our way. I believe that good things happen to those who work hard. There's biblical truth to that. And the fact that when you work hard, you're giving it everything you have. You're not leaving anything on the table. And I think too many of us leave so much on the table. And hopefully this is just encouragement to someone listening, that if you have an opportunity to do more, to go harder, obviously do it within balance and not sacrifice your family or friends. But I think there's certain times in our life where we can do more, and we'll benefit from that by making that investment in ourselves.
Well, I think you're so right. And let me tell you, you don't know how much you've helped me. I watched you and your deal with your faith, and you don't realize what you've done for me. And I mean that very sincerely. It's just it's so wonderful to see you doing what you've been doing, and how much influence you have on so many people. I just wished I could have had that same influence as what you're doing in a different way. I guess everybody looks at everybody else and I wished I could do that.
Yeah.
I guess that's normal. I've never felt like that I was really on top of anything. I just think I always made things go, one way or the other. I got it done. So, but, yeah.
What's really cool, and I hope this is encouraging to you, is that we're called to plant seeds. We're called to make that impact. And sometimes we get to plant them, sometimes we get to water them, but ultimately God is who grows the seeds. And you have inspired me and encouraged me, and you've played a role in my journey. And now, through what God is doing through us and our team and this podcast and speaking, like, we're able to go reach a larger group of people. But I'm not able to do that without the inspiration that you've given me, without the inspiration from my mom, without the inspiration from certain people that have poured into my life. And so you are completely tied into this direct response of what we're able to do through the grace of God. And so it truly is a cycle of teamwork of all us working together.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate. But another thing too that I've noticed is your friends.
So blessed.
All your friends that I've had any dealings with, all so positive. And, I look at you and look at your friends, who you have as friends, and everybody is positive. Everybody is trying to help somebody else. That's hard to find, Douglas.
I'm very blessed.
That's hard to find.
That's right. And I'm so grateful for that. And there's another verse in the Bible, iron sharpens iron as one person sharpens another. And I think you have to be very careful about who the people you bring into your life and give authority to speak into your life, and the people you spend your time with. It has to be intentional. And I think you need to be cognizant of those people and what their intentions are, because otherwise you're going to be influenced and you're going to essentially go in the direction that they go. No matter what you want to agree or disagree with, it's going to happen eventually.
Well, I'll have to agree with all you said, and I don't think you've realized how much influence you have had on so many people, and I just hope you can continue to do it.
Let's go one person at a time. I want to shift gears here, because now I want to speak on a topic that I have no authority on, and that is marriage. You have just celebrated your 55th anniversary with Nanny. That's amazing.
That's exactly right.
So first off, congrats.
Thank you. February the 3rd, 55 years.
It's unbelievable.
We started out high school sweethearts or whatever, and she went away actually her last 2 years in high school she went away, and then she went away to college, and I piddled around, did this, did that, went to a couple of schools, and I wasn't too crazy about continuing that, so ended up going to the Flint, Michigan, to a dealership management school, and And I remember when I was gone there, she was at Endicott, I guess. And when we would talk, her name is Lewis. Well, a lot of people got it. They all thought it was a guy. And I'd call, back then you say, I want to speak to Lewis Riddle. And they would always say, Mr. Lewis Stone. I said, Mr. Lewis. I said, no, it's a girl. Anyway, but anyway, we were on and off, a lot of off, and she dated other people, I dated other people, but eventually we never went too long without seeing each other or going back. And so we, it was just, I figured, hey, we just need to go ahead and do this. And I think I was probably in 23, 4, 5, I don't know. But like I said, we've been married
55 years ago.
Been married, yeah, 55. Been married for 55 years, and she was she was my best friend, and
wow.
I just, we just loved each other, and it all worked out. And had 2 girls, and then they had boys, and
yeah.
But it's marriage. Marriage is not easy. I say not easy. Number one, you do need love. But there's so many challenges that you have to face as a team, as a couple, and it's not always the easiest thing. But eventually, it all works out, and I'm love her to death, and it's been great. Our marriage has been great. And I look around at a lot of my friends, it hasn't. And that's okay too. If it's not working, I guess you got to move on. I don't know. But fortunately, it worked for 55 years, and I don't plan on going anywhere. So, and I hope she doesn't either. But no, we've gotten along. We've been through a lot of ups and downs. And we've had a lot of peaks and valleys too, but overall, it's been a wonderful, wonderful situation, a wonderful marriage. So,
wow,
that's about it.
That's amazing.
About all I can tell you.
And I'm so grateful that you guys had a wonderful marriage, because obviously, without you guys having a wonderful marriage, I'm not here to have this conversation with you. So, thankful for that. I do want to talk to you. Talk about having love as being a key foundational element of a good marriage, which is interesting. I mean, that's the truth of our relationship with Jesus. I mean, that's all about love as well. But what other lessons have you learned throughout your marriage that I think would be helpful to just share with maybe some younger people that listen to the show that are either in a season before their marriage, or maybe they're newlywed, or maybe they've been in their marriage, and you just can provide such a unique perspective of wisdom where you are in had married 55 years?
Well, one thing I think is so important is to give and take. Not always having everything exactly the way you want it. And
That's
I think
good.
being fair to each other and sharing the downs and the ups together, and when your wife is having some issues or problems, you really need to try to be more concerned and be there for her. Same way, vice versa. And I just think that too many young people, they just think, marriage is just runs itself.
Right.
It's almost like a business. It's kind of like church. Having faith is the most important thing. And I think love, yeah, faith, but you've just got to trust, and you've got to be able to share the downers with the uppers, and you're going to have both in a relationship. But fortunately, I've had a very good marriage, and like I said, I want it to continue.
I love it, man. I love it, and I think that's true. I think anything that has any meaning or has any worth in our life takes work. Nothing that's
sure.
easy has a lot of
Sure.
value. If it's something that you want to do, something you want to accomplish, whether it's a business, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, it's going to take work. And that's not a bad thing. That's just part of the process of being successful in whatever you're doing.
Well, that's a lot being said, and that's the way it goes. It's just what you have to deal with in life.
Absolutely. I want to take a slight turn because we've talked about some serious stuff yet very valuable and wise stuff that hopefully people would take from. But I want to talk to you a little bit about your passions. Outside of being a very successful businessman and running a family and having a great marriage, you used to dabble a little bit with Harley Davidsons. Let's talk about that little portion of your life for a second, because I think it'd be kind of fun to bring up some of the stories.
You know, and I don't understand it, and a lot of people don't understand. I guess the motorcycles was probably one of the most fun things I ever did. I loved it. I started riding, I guess, when I was 15.
Wow.
And my dad hated them. He he had a bad experience one time. They traded for a motorcycle, and he got on it and ran it into the wall and fell over on him. And I don't know, it's a long story. But he just hated them. Plus, I had a cousin was killed on a motorcycle. I had a brother-in-law that was injured very badly on a motorcycle. It was something, I don't know if, I think it was the freedom of getting out in the wind and the air, and you just let everything go. You better have, because you better pay attention when you ride. But I loved it. I did dirt bikes. I did cross country. I did enduros, and then I never got into really competitive riding. But then I got into the street bikes, and then, of course, when I got my first Harley, it was all over. It was the sound. Anyway. So I rode until actually, well, about 4 years ago, I knew it was time to get off. And so I got a Can-Am, which was a 3-wheeler, 2 wheels in front.
Those things are cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And I went to Sturgis with the same old group of Harley riders that I'd been going for years. And I kept up. Nobody ever left me, even with that. And, but I just didn't really like it. I said, if I'm gonna have 3 wheels, I'm gonna have 4 wheels.
Right.
So I thought it was time to, with my age and everything. So I gave it up, and that was hard to do. I miss it every day. Every time I listen to a motorcycle go by, I feel like I'm on it riding with them. And but other than that, in golf, I enjoy playing golf.
Playing a lot of golf too.
And just again being outside, and it was just you and the club and the ball and whatever element is out there. And every day it changes, the wind, the sun, the rain, or whatever. And I just really enjoyed golf. I was never I was never good at it, but I could hit a pretty long drive for no more. I got out of golf about what I put into it, so I didn't try real hard. And in sports, I loved every sport. And back in the day, I was pretty fast, pretty quick on my feet, but I wasn't willing to put the time and effort into sports. I worked after school. I worked on Saturdays. I didn't have time for. I didn't want to take time to practice and be good at something. I never forget, we had a state, some kind of test for ability, and something the state did, and you had to. Everybody had to run and do this clockwork and do this, and so it was my turn, and I ran, and I'll never forget the coaches. We had about 4 or 5 coaches there, and had these people from the state. They were timing. I guess they was trying to see who, what's the average do and all this. And so I finished, and I came back, and the coach told me, he said, "Doug, come over here a minute. I think we got something wrong." I said, "What's that?" He said, "I don't think you that fast." I said, "Well," you said, I don't know. No, I never played. I don't know. He said, "Well, go over and rest a little. I want you to do this again." I think it was a 100-yard dash or some kind of stuff. So I had to do it again. And I mean, he said, I don't believe you. You fasted this time and before.
Wow.
And he said, why haven't you been, they went there and just kind of down on me for not, But I guess, again, you got to be willing to sacrifice a lot to be good at anything. You look what you sacrificed to do what you did in sports, to do what you're doing right now.
For sure.
It didn't just happen.
That's right.
I mean, it just didn't happen. You made it happen. So, anyway, I enjoyed working. I started out cleaning parts bins, dusting them, then changing oil and changing tires, and I moved up to the parts room, and then I moved up to the service, and I just went all the way through it. And finally, I got into the sales and then management, and then finally I was the dealer. And I don't regret anything that I've done. I did a whole lot of things that I probably wished I hadn't have, but I did them. And if I did anything that I thought I should, I just didn't want to ever do it again.
There you go. Learn from
And
it,
I don't
right?
mean bad stuff, but I had lots of friends, and I just hope I continue to make new relationships and friends, and because at my age, when you start losing them, you really realize just how dear a friend is to you. And
Wow,
just in
that's a
the
good
last
lesson.
several months have lost 2 or 3 of my really close friends. And we just need to cherish every minute.
Every single minute, that's right.
And just thank the Lord for all we have and what we're doing.
It's hard to realize how much something means to you till it's gone.
That's when you really realize when there's that void and you don't have that person to talk to or to call or to play golf with or to just enjoy the relationship or time. But anyway, I got to say that I've had a very blessed life. I've had the good Lord looked after me, and I just hope it continue.
Let's go. I love it, man. This has truly been an unbelievable episode. So much wisdom. I'm so grateful for you and everything you shared. I have one more question, though, before we wrap this up. And that's truly just for you to take a second to reflect on, what is that one piece of advice that you would give yourself, maybe at 25 years old, when you were just kind of getting into it? You've learned all this about life. You've had mountains and valleys. You've learned how to interact with people. I'm sure there are things that you've done really well in business, maybe some mistakes you've made, you've learned from, and have made you who you are. What's a piece of advice that you would give your younger self if you could go back and tell yourself something?
I think listening to people, particularly everybody. Never think that just because this person doesn't have this job or they not have this position, that they don't have anything to give you their advice or their opinion. I would go back into my cleanup department where everybody goes, obviously that department the pay scale is not great. But those guys would see and hear things and give me information that my managers and stuff would never do.
Wow.
And I just had so much respect for the guy here, the guy here. Everybody was my work with me. And I had one of the managers one day to say something about one of the cleanup guys, and and I said, let me tell you something. Try selling a dirty new car out there. Go out there and let it have all the junk that comes on them from the factory, tires and the windows and everything. Try to sell it. Somebody's got to clean it up, make it look real nice, make it look like it should. They're very important. Are you going to do it? Am I going to do it? Well, I have done it, but I didn't want to do it, but then I didn't want to do it after. But I think listening to people,
That's
having
good.
respect for whatever and whoever, and just not ever putting yourself above somebody. Your
So good.
job might be, they might work under you, and you might have to be the one to tell them what to do or to share the responsibilities. But they are just human beings, just like everybody else.
Wow.
And they need respect and attention. But that's, to me, listening to everybody and respecting everybody's position or job. And you might, there's a lot of things go on. I accept a lot of things. I don't have to agree, but I can accept a lot. And
still respect.
yes, and then
People.
it's just in everybody's faith. I'm not real sure who's right and wrong. I have mine, and you have yours, but I respect whatever your faith is, and mine, or anybody else's. I don't have to agree. And, there's so much differences in different religious, whatever it be. So, but that's just one thing that helped me more than anything else. And I got more information from listening to not who I thought would give me all the advice and so forth, as I did people I never dreamed of would give me answers or give me information. So
That's extremely valuable, and I appreciate that, because I truly believe we live in a world where people are quick to speak. People feel like sometimes they may have all the right answers, and even just that's encouragement to me as I want to continue to step into more leadership opportunities with what we're building with AIM, just discipleship guys in general. But I think when you listen to someone, it's one of the purest forms of showing that you care about them. And I think it's a really powerful way to build a very strong trust between one another, when it's not me just telling, but no, I want to hear from you. I want to understand how you feel. And you talk about, we're all humans at the end of the day. Yes, maybe some people are in different positions, but I love how you bring that all together. And there's so much humility in that. And it's evidence that you have been a very successful leader by the way you carry yourself. And that's just, we're beyond blessed to hear from you today. So, D, I really thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming on the AIM podcast. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Love you, man. Thank you so much.
Love you too, buddy.
I appreciate you, man. Let's go.